Hello and Happy New Year. Wishing everyone the very best in 2022. Welcome to TG Wellbeing 93.5 FM Radio WTBQ. The show is all about you, feeling and looking your best inside and out. I'm your host, Rob Fletcher, author of America's Next Great Trainer, Transform Your Life. Today, we are very excited to kick off the new year with our featured guest, Dr. Robert Silverman, internationally recognized speaker and author of Inside Out Health, a revolutionary new approach to your body. Dr. Robert Silverman is a chiropractic doctor, clinical nutritionist, national and international speaker, author of Amazon's #1 bestseller, Inside Out Health, founder and CEO of Westchester Integrative Health Center. Very recently, a featured speaker at the world-renowned A4M Anti-Aging and Regenerative Medicine Conference held annually at the Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, where I was fortunate enough to attend a seminar and completely engaged in what he had to say. Extremely knowledgeable and passionate about changing and saving lives. With us now, we welcome Dr. Robert Silverman.
It's great to be here, Rob. I appreciate your time. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It was great seeing you. And as I said, I was completely engaged and so excited to share with our listeners, your wealth of knowledge, especially right now going through these very extremely trying times. And one of the things that really stuck out in my mind is how inflammation is really doing a number across the country. So first, let's start out with basically gut health, what it is and why is it so important that people understand?
Gut is critical because your gut is 80% of your immune cells. Hippocrates once said that all disease begins in the gut. Sherry A. Rogers actually said the road to health is paved with good intestines. Let me give you some gut factoids. 90% of the literature on gut health has been in the last 5 years. We as human beings, believe it or not, are made of 100 trillion bacteria cells. They actually outnumber our human cells 10 to 1. That bacteria lives on our skin, but for the most part, it lives in our gut. So when I look at the gut and when I talk about the gut, people, say, well, what do you mean? Well, I'm talking about the large and the small intestine. And it's funny when we say the small intestine because it's sort of a misnomer. It's extremely long. It's 20 to 52 feet, depending on the person. But the small intestine is a single-layer epithelial cell. Its sole purpose is to absorb digested food, vitamins, minerals, and water. Any damage to that gut can lead you down a slippery slope of increased inflammation. Your gut speaks to your liver. It speaks to your insulin level, your body composition, autoimmunity, thyroid. It speaks to your musculoskeletal system, and it speaks to your brain. The gut's the body's second brain because it has its own nervous system. They call that the enteric nervous system. As a matter of fact, Rob, believe it or not, the gut has more nerve cells than any other system in the whole body. So when you have a damaged gut, or what we like to refer to as a leaky gut, you get nutrient malabsorption, possible autoimmunity, food sensitivities, which I know we want to touch on at some point. You can damage your brain, and you get systemic inflammation. Lastly, Dr. Alessio Fasano once said, the gut is not Vegas. What happens in the gut doesn't necessarily stay in the gut.
Right. So right now, with especially, with COVID and all that's happening and the gut to brain, how many really can comprehend how much impact that has on the brain and possibly moods, behavioral issues, et cetera, because, of course, now I believe we really have not only a crisis with COVID, but mental health, obviously. So how much of an impact how much do you think people really can grasp that affects the way your moods or your brain, your way of thinking?
You just really hit a great point. I mean, there's such an increase in mental health. We talk about the gut feeling. So the gut and the brain communicate. They're actually bidirectional. What's fascinating about the gut's effect on the brain, it happens in a millisecond. So when you get that gut feeling where, something's going wrong, there's a change in personality. But let's get to the root cause of that broken brain. So essentially, I have a statement I always like to say, gut on fire means brain on fire. So if somebody has gas and bloating after they eat, that's a sign that there's something wrong with their gut. If they get like a brain fog, within a half hour, 45 minutes after they ate, their brain's on fire. They're numb. They get lethargic. I always laugh when people come back at a lecture, a half hour, 45 minutes, like, guys, what are you doing? And they're tired. I didn't think I was boring. Gut on fire means brain on fire. There's 400 times the amount of messages from the gut to the brain than the brain to the rest of the body. So the gut is the main communicator to the brain. So if you're having some issues, look at your gut. 3 pounds of bacteria in your gut, trillions of bacteria in your gut. There's more bacteria than cells. And we talk about neurotransmitters, these communication-type things. 93% of the neurotransmitters are in your gut that speak to your brain. So if you want to have a positive effect on your brain, you really want to have good gut health. And lastly, something, and I'm not trying to get technical, something called brain neurogenesis, the ability of your brain to rewire. You need something called BDNF. It's a protein enzyme. It comes from your gut to your brain. So whatever you do to your gut, you do to your brain. Whatever you do to your brain, you do to your gut. So if you've got some issues or mental health issues, and that is on the rise, you have to look no further than that gut-to-brain axis, which I like to refer to as the superhighway to health.
Well, on that note of supplementation, I know we have a lot to cover, and as a matter of fact, we have you back on next week because we do have a lot I would like to really get out there, especially now with the new year, people making their resolutions, their fitness resolutions, which of course applies to their eating habits. But supplementation, so right now we have COVID out there, we have the cold, we have flu, building up your immune system. What is your hit list or most popular vitamin supplementation that people should definitely be consuming at this time?
So are we talking about vitamin supplementation for the gut, or are we talking about vitamin supplementation for the immune system?
Well, I'm going to hit you up with both now that you brought it up. So
I stepped into it.
You stepped
That's
into
great.
that one, Doc. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with both, gut and immune.
You got it. Well, when you talk immune, you do talk gut. 80% of your immune cells are in your gut. And people say, why would it be constructed that way? Well, it makes a lot of sense because the number one foreign objects that you consume is food. We consume tons and tons of food, and for us to determine what's going on in our body, because eating food going through the gut is the first time that the body recognizes the outside world to the inside world, and that's why 80% of our immune cells are in our gut. So having said that, always, not just supplementation, we always want to start with diet. Well, what kind of diet? So I'll give you some quick acronyms. Everybody can write these down. GPS, everybody's heard what that means. No GPS when you want to keep a healthy gut. No gluten, no processed food, no sugar. Now, I just heard a whole bunch of people go, darn, there goes my lunch. Number 2, DNA. No DNA. No dairy. No nicotine. No artificial sweetener. So if I didn't get you with the gluten, I got you with the dairy. Now, let's talk about some supplements for the gut. I'll give you some what I like to refer to as my Dr. Rob's Fab 5. Real simply, a good pre- and probiotic, they're critical. Probiotics allow for life in the gut. They're live bacteria. It's an ecosystem in your gut. It communicates with the world. It's sort of, if you will, a neighborhood. And good bacteria is a critical element to police the neighborhood and send health signals. You should also include prebiotics. Prebiotics are fibers that you can feed a probiotic with. Some other things that I find really effective, believe it or not, most people talk about glutamine. Glutamine's popular, but I'm a big proponent of omega-3 fatty acids and vitamin D, D3 with K2. Did you know that every cell in your body has a receptor for omega-3 and vitamin D, inclusive in your gut? So now we got 3. We got pre- and probiotics. We got vitamin D. We got omega-3 fatty acids. And some of the hidden real gems that I like are turmeric. People have heard it before. Turmeric's great because it creates an anti-inflammatory environment in your gut, which is critical. And lastly, believe it or not, a good quality multivitamin, multimineral is going to get you a long way in overall gut health. You need something specific? We can talk about it in a little bit. Now, immune health, overall immune. We're talking immune support. Here are your needed nutrients: zinc, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, quercetin, a good multivitamin, multimineral, and lastly, magnesium. I hear all these tremendous potions that everybody has. They're good. But if you start with that, and I mean, here we have and I know we're going to talk about immune next week, so I don't want to give away.
Right.
I don't want to give it away, but I'll say it right now, and we'll say it again. It's real simple. You can't control the virus, but you can control the host. So as we go through all these different varieties, these variants, these mutations, the one constant you have is you, and you have to keep your immune system robust
100%.
and resilient. The only pathogen that replicates, that needs a host to replicate, is a virus. Need I say more?
100%. Now, on your note of preventative things that we can do, you hit a lot of good points, and many of these things are definitely worth repeating when you come back on next week. But prevention, how much do you believe, like basically pre-existing conditions, for example, someone's more susceptible to a cold, to flu, to COVID, how much do you think that role plays in actually the way that your body handles a cold or a flu?
Let's dig right in. We're talking comorbidities with COVID-19. It's a conversation piece. It's a fair conversation piece. What I like to refer to when we talk about COVID and a viral infection that's novel like this is that you're kicking the grass and sometimes you wake the snake up. And that's what we're seeing. And those snakes are your comorbidities. Comorbidities are a critical element, like obesity, blood sugar and insulin resistance, huge. I mean, I know that you're out there, you're purporting exercise, you're getting people to eat well. You're working within the framework of keeping their blood sugar down and their insulin resistance down. In addition to that, believe it or not, unfortunately for me, age is a factor. Age is a comorbidity. Other comorbidities may be pre-existing conditions like blood-brain barrier damage, gut damage, diabetes, kidney issues. That's changed a little with Omicron, but the bottom line is if you have a comorbidity, you're much more susceptible to a long-term adverse effect from a viral infection.
So, we have a couple more minutes before we go to break, but your biggest drivers on inflammation, and it's related, like with obesity, for example, and also, of course, heart disease, which we both know these things are epidemic in itself across our country. So what are your biggest drivers of inflammation as how people would get inflamed, or what would drive that to happen? Inflammation,
believe it or not, is the driver of chronic disease. So interestingly enough, one of the biggest problems for inflammation is, again, an American diet. The average American now consumes 25 more calories than they did in 1970. 60% of the calories consumed in the American diet is from ultra-processed food. 67% of children's diets, caloric intake, is from ultra-processed food. And I know this is going to really wreak havoc when I say this to people. 92% of the U.S. population has a vitamin mineral deficiency. The average American consumes a pound daily of a combination of wheat and sugar. They also consume 142 pounds of caloric sweeteners per year. 60% of the foods and beverages purchased in American grocery stores contain added sugar. So no high fructose corn syrup, no added fructose.
It's a killer.
Fructose now can be labeled as high fructose corn syrup. 80% of heart disease and diabetes originate with poor diet.
Well, Doc, let me stop you there before we go to our break and just let everyone know we are with Dr. Robert Silverman, author of Inside Out Health, Amazon bestseller. Please check it out at Amazon, and we'll be right back. We are with Dr. Robert Silverman, TG Wellbeing, 93.5 FM WTBQ.
It's no secret that people are keeping their vehicles longer and driving them further than ever before. That's why at Leo Catus Ford, every new and certified pre-owned vehicle we sell includes a lifetime and unlimited mileage powertrain warranty. Ford, Chevy, Toyota, Honda, we have them all. Any dealership can offer you 0%. Any dealership can talk about their great selection. But only Leo Catus Ford can offer you the Catus Advantage. As long as you own your vehicle, we have you covered. Engine, turbocharger, transmission, transfer case, and the drive system. And looking for service? Let our state-of-the-art service department take care of you with old-time values. With our tire price guarantee, we guarantee you the best price around. Need some time to pay? No problem. Take up to 6 months with the Ford Service Card. Every vehicle is sanitized both before and after we work on it. Cars really do cost less at Cadis. Leo Cadis Ford. Quality you can trust. Warwick, New York.
For the most trusted mechanics in the Hudson Valley, contact Automotive Ingenuity HD, located in Unionville, New York. Automotive Ingenuity HD specializes in light and medium-duty truck fleet repair, gas or diesel, and rust frame repair. Their goal is to get your truck on the road in A1 running condition. And how lucky for you that Automotive Ingenuity HD is having a preseason sale with 10% off for wool wax vehicle undercoating. For more information and to make an appointment, visit AutomotiveIngenuityHD.com.
Tune in every Saturday at 11 a.m. for Free Speech with Stephen Keeter, where you can voice your opinion, express your ideas, comment, or make suggestions on the topic du jour, right here on Radio Worth Listening to.
WTBQ.
Hi, welcome back. This is Robert Fletcher. We are with Dr. Robert Silverman, best-selling author of Inside Out Health. Dr. Silverman, welcome back, and let's pick up right where we left off there, the drivers of inflammation. And really, I would like to get some really good, solid advice from you as to foods people should be eating.
Well, as I alluded to earlier, let's stay away from ultra-processed and processed food. Let's start eating more whole foods. Real simple. I love to eat what I call smash fish. Smash is an acronym: salmon, mackerel, anchovy, sardines, herring. Jack LaLanne once said, by the way, Jack LaLanne was actually a chiropractor, and he said, if man makes it, I won't eat it. That simply takes away all the processed and ultra-processed foods. In addition, love my organic fruits and greens. What a great choice. Ancient grains like sorghum, quinoa. Some of the things you really want to avoid, the macronutrient, if you really want to call it that, is carbohydrates. I'm a big proponent of eating more fats and more proteins. So I like fatty fruits like avocado, olives, and coconuts. They're great choices. If you're going to pick fruits a little lower on the sugar, like berries, apples, and the like. Those are great choices. Other good quality fats would be olive oil, or if you will, extra virgin olive oil. One little caveat: avoid things that are cooked with vegetable oils. There's no vegetables in vegetable oils. There's soybean, there's canola oil. They are without question a no bueno. If we could remove the vegetable oils just from our consumption, you will see a dramatic change in our health outcomes.
And I like that line you use in your book. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system. Just touch on that a little bit.
We don't have a healthcare system, and if anything, COVID has shown us our healthcare system is failing. We have a sick care system, and everybody waits till they're sick to respond. So if I could change everybody, I would tell them, let's stop being reactive when it comes to our health. Let's start being proactive. What have you done for your health savings account today? That's what I ask all my patients. I know you put into your savings account, I know you had some food, but what did you do for your health today? I know the first thing you do when you wake up is you eat something healthy, Rob, and you exercise, and then you go help other people do the same.
Yeah,
you put people on their health path.
Right, and right now, hopefully people will be consistent. I know they get a big, it's a new year, they want to make those resolutions strong and solid and stick to them. But, going into this new year now, what tips would you give to people to living that lifestyle of health and fitness? What top tips would you give?
My tips would be real simple. I would love you to eat within a time frame or a time restrictive eating, or what we like to refer to as intermittent fasting. So I would say simply, if you've never done that, if you start eating at 7 o'clock in the morning, you end by 7 o'clock at night. That's a 12-hour framework. So intermittent fasting, time restrictive eating, works to the idea of that there's a feast and there's a famine in the day. So there's a time that you don't eat and there's a time that you eat. I should do it at least a 12-hour break, ultimately getting up to a 14 to 16-hour break. With the advent of food being at our access 24/7, people are eating 16 to 18 hours a day. A lot of good health outcomes come with intermittent fasting. Number 2, cut your sugar down. Get that insulin resistance. Number 3, you heard me say it before, decrease your gluten, avoid your gluten, avoid your dairy, and start eating from the rainbow. The more colorful the foods, the more phytonutrients you have, the better the biodiversity you have in your gut. Because remember, if your gut's not healthy, you're not healthy.
I just want to touch back on when we were talking about fats, carbs, and protein. You mentioned what do you think the average person, I know that could also be a little bit tricky based on lifestyle, activities, and goals and objectives and such, but for the average person, would you be able to recommend a percentage of fats to carbs to protein?
Absolutely. The ketogenic diet is a diet that comes to mind. So I'll give you what the keto goes by, and I'll give you my little change on it. So the keto is approximately 70 to 75% fat, 20% protein, and 5% carbohydrates. I think that's a great diet, maybe not for everybody. There is no great diet for everybody. The keto diet is personalized and individualized for your health needs and your goals in life. But I would recommend at least 50 to 60% fat, 25-30% protein, and 10% or less of carbohydrates, because carbohydrates, there's no essential macronutrient for a carbohydrate. There's essential fats, there's essential amino acids. Vegetables, most green leafy that I'm talking about, have virtually no carbohydrates. They're very low. If you're talking about the starchy carbs, that's probably where you really need to make that cut. And when I told you guys before, ultra-processed foods, sugar, the average American consumes 160 pounds of sugar per year. Why do people eat sugar? It works with the reward center in your brain. When mice were offered sugar, 94% of mice took sugar over cocaine. People eat it. It's the most over-the-counter, overused drug in America today.
Crazy, absolutely crazy, and causing so much, as you mentioned, chronic disease. And people could just make these simple, small, gradual, I always say simple, small, gradual changes in your behaviors will definitely redeem great results later on, but being consistent. So we have a couple more minutes here. Well, we have about 5 more minutes, but I definitely want to touch on something I'm very interested in and looking forward to. We're implementing this, as you know, in our TG Wellbeing clinics out there on the West Coast, but food sensitivities. You actually have the test now where it tests people for, possible sensitivities to certain foods. And I'm definitely looking forward to getting my results on that. But let's talk about food sensitivities and the impact that foods can have on the body.
Absolutely. Most people confuse food sensitivities with food allergies. Food allergies are very immediate. You'll know it. You'll get red. You'll get hot. You'll swell in the first hour afterwards. And that is what they call an IgE response, almost like an anaphylactic shock. Food sensitivities, vastly different. It's what we call an IgG response. And what do I mean by that? Up to 72 hours after ingestion, if you're sensitive to a food, you will see symptomology. So how could any patient really know you're sensitive to a food with a 3-day lapse? Food sensitivities affect like 100 million people in America today. They've increased at least 50%. 90% of the food sensitivities are really relegated to 8 different food groups: milk, soy, eggs, wheat, peanuts, tree nuts, fish, and shellfish. So again, the idea of delayed sensitivities, they're vastly different than a food allergy. So people will say, what are the more common food sensitivities? I'll give you the top 20 foods, even though I gave you the food lists. Write these down: almonds, bananas, beef, brewer's yeast, candida, casein, chicken, corn, cow's milk, egg whites, egg yolks, gluten, peanuts, pineapples, salmons, shrimp, soybean, tomato, and white powder, and whole wheat. They provide triggers for damaging the gut. So food sensitivities and food additives and emulsifiers can damage your gut, leading you down on a slippery slope.
Let's talk about, because with that, comes all sorts of issues, but impact on performance, and I'm not talking just sports performance. I'm talking about to get the body to perform optimally. The impact that it has on a person, an individual, might be a little bit redundant, but worth going over again. The physical and mental impact that the food has on your performance throughout the course of a day and productivity.
Right. Food sensitivities can damage gut absorbability or cause what we like to refer to as leaky gut. Now, again, as we spoke about before, one of the 3 key functions of the gut when it's functioning well is to absorb small digested food particles to bring nutrient health. It's also allowed to absorb water. It's also allowing to absorb specific vitamins and minerals. If the gut's leaky, it's not absorbing these things in an appropriate manner. People come into me and they say, you know what? My performance is down. I'm tired. I'm fatigued all day. Fatigue is a great sign of damage to the gut. Food sensitivities could be that hidden clinical pearl that they need to ascertain to see why. So why would people want to test for food sensitivities? Why would they look at it? Well, once again, like you said, they don't feel well. They have an issue. Body composition is off. They have an autoimmune issue. They may have some thyroid problems. They may have some arthritis, fatigue, huge, brain fog, any kind of digestive or gut issues are a major issue. And believe it or not, things that most docs don't talk about, any kind of woman issues, could be related to the gut, which is related back to those food sensitivities.
Well, Dr. Silverman, it's been great having you on, and I want everyone to know he will be back with us next week. But we have about 60 seconds in closing. I just want to thank you very much for joining us here at TG Wellbeing Radio, 93.5 FM WTBQ. Make sure you check out Dr. Silverman's book, Inside Out Health, A Revolutionary Approach to Your Body, Amazon bestseller. Dr. Silverman, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Doc, give them your Instagram and your website.
Absolutely. Thank you. drrobertsilverman.com.
And also you have an Instagram at Dr. Robert Silverman, which I'm always checking that out. I think probably 12 times a day now at this point.
I do appreciate that. I'll send you a badge.
You're awesome. All right, Dr. Silverman, check him out, and make sure you check us out next week. We're here every Saturday, 12:15 to 12:45. You can also listen worldwide at WTBQ.com. This is Rob Fletcher, TG Wellbeing.